Beautiful Game Series, Aaron Jamal Crawford, born March 20th, 1980. Welcome to a new series on Stunted Growth, where we talk about guys whose basketball game was just an amazing sight to see and deserve to be appreciated and documented. Not every player has a growth stunt or spurt story, but has one that still should be told. Today, that guy is Jamal Crawford, a player that never truly got the recognition for his game, but ask any basketball player and he gets their respect. He's regarded as having some of the best handles of all time. That's been proven in many different arenas and every different level, literally. Since high school, when many of his early coaches would get on him for over-dribbling, but something he stuck with and became known for 20 years professionally. But Jamal didn't just have dribbling moves that made his game special. He had the entire package.
You should chill.
He was 6'5", long arms, wiry build, and the biggest difference with him opposed to any other dribbling specialist is his dribbles were much higher and much wider than normal, making his moves even that more anticipated and created that more build-up with fans watching. It also caused his moves to literally look like the ball was on some sort of string, like a yo-yo that he could pull any way he wanted to and rarely ever lost control. The great thing about that is, when he did lose control, he says it took him into entirely different moves altogether, creating a freestyle rap type of handle that was unstoppable. Ask a basketball fan, casual or hardcore, and they'll likely place Kyrie on top when asked the best ball handler ever. But for me, that's hands down Jamal Crawford. When you talk about finishing, definitely, no question, Kyrie Irving. But handles, in my opinion, Jamal embodied what you'd imagine the best ever to be. Kyrie's handles were compact and precise, while Jamal's were elongated and super deceptive. You would think a guy that dribbles that high would often lose the basketball or have it stolen from him. But I can honestly say that in 20 years of him being in the league, I've never seen someone rip Jamal Crawford. He's also a student of the game that would sneak into the forum as a boy to watch NBA players, even saw Tupac at one game, who would do things like sleep with the basketball and dribble in the rain to challenge himself while bettering his feel for the rock. This led to a great high school career, standout 17 games in college, and 8th pick in the 2000 NBA draft. He's never been an NBA All-Star, and the year he would have been, his team wasn't good enough. But he did win 3 Sixth Man of the Year awards, and up to age 37 was a significant part of every team he's been on in the NBA. His game may not win you championships, it may not go down as the greatest ever all around, but it was beautiful to watch. Let's witness it. Beautiful Game Episode 1, Jamal Crawford. How he became J Crossover. One of the craziest things to think about Jamal Crawford's story is literally how he got here in the first place and played his way from there into the fabric of basketball. His mother at 12 years old got pregnant and had her first child at 13 years old. A nervous and confused young mother at the time, she couldn't believe she'd get pregnant a second time at 13 by a different teenage boy, and this one made her even more nervous. So much so that she gave up her second baby girl for adoption before an aunt guilted her into going back to get the child, and she did. 14 years later, that same child would be the most important person in Jamal's life, and he wasn't even here yet. In her late 20s, Jamal's mom would date a basketball player named Kyrie Crawford and got pregnant at 27 years old. Not wanting another child 14 years after her last, she contemplated abortion, and it was that same sister that convinced her mother to have the baby, promising to take on the responsibility of taking care of it. And when Jamal was born, she became like his second mom. He would grow up with the basketball in his hand for as long as anyone could remember, taking it everywhere he went, splitting time in Inglewood, California with his father, where he'd sneak into Laker games to watch his favorite players, and Seattle. He would often skip school to play basketball and sometimes go to the local barbershop just to listen to the older guys talk, but one thing he never missed was a second without the basketball. Inspired by guys like Allen Iverson, Jason Williams, and Isaiah Thomas, a young Jamal wanted to play basketball while attending Dorsey High in South Central LA, but because of the gangs in the area, he was afraid to attend school for 2 years. His sister's influence again brought him back to Seattle, where he joined the Rainier Beach team as a junior for this and his senior year, his only 2 years of high school basketball. He was named the High School Player of the Year for Washington and won a Class 3A state championship. Initially committing to Fresno State, he changed his commitment and took an offer from Michigan, but even that was delayed when he was suspended 12 games for violating NCAA rules by staying with a local businessman during his high school career, which was considered receiving unfair benefits. After his suspension, he joined the team, playing and averaging 17 points and 4 assists over the next 17 games, but Michigan went 15-14 in that span, and after their final game, Jamal entered his name into the NBA draft as the buzzing prospect that year. Some big shoes to fill. Jamal Crawford was seen as an explosive scorer with great size for the point guard position leaving Michigan, and the Chicago Bulls were going through a rough time after Michael Jordan retired from 98-99 to the 2000 draft. They needed excitement at the guard spot finally, where guys like John Starks, Ron Harper, Randy Brown, Rusty LaRue, and Corey Benjamin were doing all they could, but together couldn't amount to the production MJ provided. Come draft time, as you can imagine, in 2000, being a guard drafted there came with some big shoes to fill. Jamal Crawford was tagged as their straight from the draft pick to finally fill those shoes in some way, at least filling the seats with his freestyle rap moves as he describes them, but it didn't go as expected right off the top. His rookie year, he struggled with efficiency, shooting just 35% from the field. Then he hyperextended his knee late in the season that limited him to 61 games, finishing averaging 4 points per game. During the offseason prior to his second year, he tears his ACL playing in a private gym and misses all but 23 games in 01-02. His third season, he plays 80 games and shows improvement as a playmaker, also in scoring at 10 points per game. At this point, with one more year on his rookie deal before the Bulls would have to make a decision on his future, he explodes in 03-04, playing all but 2 games and averaging over 17 points per game and 5 assists. Michael Jordan, will just say, spoiled the Bulls during the 90s, winning 6 championships, and had he not retired twice, we may have seen the first team to win 10 straight. So greatness at guard is something Chicago is well versed on. Crawford improved, but the team didn't see superstar potential and traded him to the Knicks before the 04-05 season. Another rebuilding team that on it, Jamal couldn't get recognition because that's just not something players on losing teams get, and is the biggest reason he was never an all-star. When he was on teams good enough, those teams always had guys better statistically, like the Atlanta Hawks and LA Clippers. Finds himself and strides. One thing teams started to figure out about Jamal Crawford was he had a very unique and specific style that was always right on the cusp of being a star. With teams always looking for the next star superstar, they couldn't use him in that role, so he came off the bench a lot and exceeded as a 6th man. Being demoted is something the former 8th overall pick could have resented, but he accepted it and went on to cook in that space from 09 to 2017. All but one season, he was in the top 10 in 6th Man of the Year voting, winning it 3 times over that span. He and Lou Will tied for the most in league history. Another beautiful part of Jamal's game was he was deadly in clutch situations, almost like he lived for that moment, and that made him so fun to watch. Who doesn't like a buzzer beater, right? Well, Jay Crossover would break ankles into high rainbow shots that splash for game often. He tried every move in the book and wasn't afraid of not pulling it off, mainly because he worked on those combinations in some way constantly with the ball in his hands. At 36, he began to decline over the next 3 seasons with Minnesota, Phoenix, and Brooklyn, but stylistically, his game never not looked appealing to the eye, even when he wasn't getting starters or 6-man opportunity any longer. He He grew up in the perfect time too, right when and one was a thing in the early 2000s, and got to see guys like White Chocolate, Baron Davis, Allen Iverson, and an underrated dribbling god Steve Francis before him. All those inspirations in his game made his certified beautiful. Salute to Jamal, love your game, JC Stunted Growth, I'm out.
Pass to himself.